with this, I'll just come to the next question, which is what is the most interesting project that you have ever worked on over your, duration of experience?
Hmm, it's a good question. What comes to my mind is something which I did relatively recently in grad school, which is I took a course which was called Precision Product Design, and in that project I was we every student was tasked to make their own desktop lathe machine from scratch. So there was a lot of emphasis on deterministic design and how to develop this habit of testing small ideas before building the final thing, and then uh, having faith or having confidence in the engineering principles that you learn during the course, and then apply them to the building of your desktop lathe machine. The thing that I found really good about that particular project is not only the technical things that, as I talked about, but you also had to think about how to procure the material. How do I plan this in a way that by the time the material gets here, I'm ready to put it on the lathe machine or put it on the milling machine and start manufacturing it, and those kind of things. And the 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 most important part was you never sway away from the core of engineering in the project. You are always basing every decision on the engineering analysis and the calculations that you do. And the focus is always on doing the analysis, learning from the analysis, then building a small prototype to test that particular design parameter or functional requirement of the project, and learning from the prototype that you build and collecting data to see, is your analysis correct, and then if it's not correct, then improving it further to the point that you can say with a certain amount of confidence that now if I implement it in the final product, it is going to give me the desired performance. And doing it continuously over a period of time throughout the course. And then once you finally build the lathe machine, you can predict a lot of things about that lathe machine just based on the analysis that you did and improved over the course of time.
Yeah, so you specifically talk about how your experience was at MIT basically. So
Yeah.
so I forgot to mention that you also worked as a mechanical engineer at Maruti Suzuki for 2 years,
Uh-huh.
and so now you have experience working solely, I mean, individually on the college projects at NSIT, and then working professionally at Maruti Suzuki, which is a big company, and then working, doing your projects at MIT, and then now working at Miso Robotics. So there are two comparisons that come to my mind right now. So first is comparing the institutes, the universities, for example, NSIT and MIT, and how courses are structured, and the way that you do projects, the approach, like you mentioned with the precision project you talked
Yeah.
about this, and then about the approach working at a big company and then working at a startup. So I mean, that's a lot of stuff, and just take it one by one. So first, let's talk about your experience doing projects at MIT and how it was different as compared to NSIT, for say.
um, so um, when I started my grad school at MIT, I was kind of intimidated in the beginning. Just there are so many, like you're always surrounded by really smart people, but at the same time, you get a lot of opportunities to learn from them and collaborate with them on solving challenging problems.
Mhm.
Um, it does not feel that easy in the beginning, but as you spend more time, you start getting more comfortable. Uh, what I felt at MIT is that there is a lot of focus on hands-on learning. almost every course has a project component in which you are supposed to get your hands dirty and apply what you learned in the classroom to the real world. For instance, there was one course I took uh, in which uh, we had to make like remote controlled cars from scratch in a team. So using different manufacturing processes. So that was a part of a course which taught about manufacturing processes. So after learning about different manufacturing processes, we were expected to apply all that like knowledge uh, in a project, and then we were supposed to race those RC cards with other teams to test their performance. So that was one of my first experiences of like how classroom knowledge goes hand in hand with the real world hands-on learning. Then I already told you about the precision product design class, in which again we were learning a lot of stuff in the classroom, and then we had to like apply all that in building our own thing. So again, a building component there as well. And then even I took a management class, like a class about engineering management, and even that class had a component of uh, like a project component in which you were supposed to make a B plan in a team. So even in the management class, you were expected to put your learnings to the test in a real world scenario and face uh, people who will scrutinize your idea, who will scrutinize your B plan, and you then have to answer them based on what you have learned while making the B plan. And then you're also working in a team, so you have to also deal with team dynamics and things like that. So it's a pretty holistic approach to learning in general. And like the idea of hand in mind, mind in hand, which is basically the motto of MIT, is reflected in every aspect of the experience that you gain there. In comparison to that, during my undergrad, I felt like this is all in retrospect, obviously, because once you gain another experience, you can then reflect upon what you did in the past. I think most of the focus still is on like just the classroom knowledge, the knowledge that you gain in the class through books. And there is you still there is still an attempt to bridge that through lab work and labs, but I feel that that is still relatively a more controlled environment in which you can validate some things, but not like all the other uncertain or unexpected things that come your way in a real world environment. So there, like for me and also for you, that we kind of tried to bridge that through the engineering projects that we did, which was totally in an uncontrolled sort of an environment, like really dynamic stuff happening and things like that. So I think that's the big difference, is like not everyone gets an opportunity to participate in projects like that. I mean, things are changing now. I see a lot many like competitions and events similar to Baja or the Formula SAE and things like that. But yeah, it's still like we still need to focus on like changing the culture itself, and the approach, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting that you talk about the difference in not just the way education is approached, but also a general cultural difference, if I can put it that way. And the
Yeah.
motto of mind and hand, which as you mentioned, is ingrained in people there, and into the way the things are taught, as there is a practical component to all of the courses, even the management ones that you talk about.